You glad?
Okay, you saw the Mishnah on Daf Yud Ches. It said if you find Gitei Noshim in the street, Shechrei Avadim, Daitiki Matana, we'll get into that exactly. But right now, we saw a notion that you're not supposed to return it. You're not supposed to return it. And then we asked the stira, he said that you could return it. So one teretz was speaking of a place where you'd have a lot of traffic, so the chances are it fell from someone, and then you had Robert adding to that. In addition, you'd have to be established that there are people with the same name, same wife, same name, even same Adim. And we saw a teretz that you return it. It was Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi said you return it, for example, if you find a simon on it. Now, really should have finished this yesterday, but I did not. I spoke at yesterday, just to reiterate. To return an Aveda, l'chayr midaraisa, you need Adim. To return an Aveda. In other words, a Shabbos Aveda, you say a simon right away is because you've learned Elam Metzias and you've been inculcated in your life that you return something with a simon. How do you know? Usually, to bring a proof that something's yours, you would require Adim. So the Chachamim made it easier. They said what? They said Simonim. Now the question is, the Simonim derives to the Rabbanan. So Rav Ashi said there was a simon in the get. There was a hole, but it wasn't enough just to have a hole. It had to be a hole that was a simon muvak, and that standing simon, it was on the side of a nice. And in that scenario, if you find a get, the person would give a simon, you would return it. So a case that illustrates that. Rabbi Barav Kana, Yotes Amid Aleph, Irkislei Gita. He lost the get. Midrasha in the base medrash. And the base medrash is a place where, again, there was a lot of traffic. Omar said, Rabba Barachana, Isimani Isle Bigave. If you want, I have a simon in it. Itfias Eina Isle Bigave. Or just you know something when it's yours. It's called Tfias Ayin. You've looked at it so long, you know it's yours. That's called Tfias Ayin. You don't need a simon. You look at something so long enough, you know that it's yours. So either way, I should get it back. Either machmas the simon, or because of the fact that I have tfias ayin. So Amar, they said, Lo yodana imishum simani adurin eli. I don't know if they returned it to me because I had a simon, because Savi simanim deraisa, and they're of the opinion that simanim are deraisa, and therefore they returned it to me. Imishum tfias eina hadurin eli, or they gave it back to me because of my tfias ayin, my recognition of the object, of the get. And this idea of Tfias Ayin is Dafka Mitzum Rabbanan. We'll see this in Elam Metzias. It's Dafka Yon Talmidei Chachamim that will return for Tfias Ayin. Aval Inish that we trust. Aval Inish Al Maloi. But a regular person will only return it with a simon, right? And we won't return it with Tfias Ayin. Okay, that finishes off yesterday's share. Kufa. Matzah Gerisha B'Shuk. If you find the Gerisha in the street, Bisman Shal Bal Maida Yachzer. This was the kasha on our Mishnah, right? If the Baal is Maida, you return it. Leisha. Ain't a Baal Maida, lo Yachzer, lo Ylezev, lo Ylezev. Now, Bisman Shal Bal Maida, Mia Yachzer. When the Baal is Maida, you will return it to the Isha. Fred Gemara, V'lecha Shem Akosav Litne B'Nissen. He wrote the get in Nissen. V'lei Nasan lo ad Tishrei. Did not give it to her until Tishrei. Now, he goes ahead and has use of the Paris until he divorces her. V'yazil Baal, he went. Zavin Peri Minisan at Tishrei. In that 6-month period, he sold the produce and he made money. Umafka Legita, the Ksiv Benisan. She's going to go ahead, produce the get that was written in Nisan. V'yashi limit of Lekucha Shleikidin. And she'll go ahead and she'll be able to rip away what? Shleikidin. In other words, even if the Baal is Maida, we still got a problem. We got a problem. Not only a problem, not a problem of what, whether he divorced her or not, whether she's an Ashes Ish. He admits that he divorced her. He admits that he's divorced. Okay, so now if he admits that he wrote the get, and if he admits that he wrote the get, why are we worried the following scenario? As long as he doesn't give her the get, she's not divorced. The get is dated in Nisan. Maybe the divorce took place in Tishrei. If you go after the date of the get, she was divorced 6 months previously. During the 6-month period, he sold the Paris. She comes along now, she produces the get, and the get says, he sold you something that belonged to me. The nichsei miloy. Again, we're speaking about her property. She owns the goof of the property, and he has the rights to the Paris as long as they're married. So If she produces a get that says they got divorced in Nisan and he sold it, obviously she has the rights to it. So why are we worried about that? Why are we worried about that? It says since he went ahead and he decided to divorce her, he has no rights to the Paris good. In other words, Taka lost the rights to the Paris in Nisan, and she would have every right to collect. But according to Mandiyama says she has a right to the Paris until the Nesina. Why are we worried about that 6-month period that he sold the Paris and she'll come and collect? Says the Mayaklamema, and for the Gemara, Kiyasi Lemitrif, when she comes to rip it away, Amrin-in-law, we say to her, I see Raya Amos Matakita Liyadech. Go and bring a Raya when the get came to your hand. Go bring a Raya when the get came to your hand. So in other words, we're not concerned about that. If she's going to come to collect, she's have to bring a Raya on the Eidei Mesira, guys, not on the Eidei. The Eidei Chasima, not necessarily, but the date of the star, right? So you have to bring Eidei Mesira Karti. We pass like Rebbe Laza, Eidei Mesira Karti, and therefore you have to bring a Raya. So we're not worried, concerned about what? Her going ahead and collecting Paris. We're now contrasting. We're going to contrast the same scenario by Shtari Chayv, where we won't return it, guys. Here we're returning it, and over here we're not going to return it. None. Matzah Shtari Chayv, if you find the Shtar Chayv, im yesh ben achrayis nechasim, the Mishnah said, if in the Shtar is achrayis nechasim, layachzer. And we said, right, achrayis is tos safer, and even later Chachamim, we paskin like, right, Rabbi said you're only with Meshubid, you would return it. He says, I feel Meshubid, you won't return it, because we're worried that you're going to collect shleikadin. So now v'kimna kishachayiv maida, even when he's maida, right? Remember, guys, kanunya. You can worry about kanunya. He's maida that the avot took place. What are we worried about? Shema kosav lil bois benisin loy va'at tishrei. Maybe what the halvot took place in Nisan. The shtar says Nisan, and it was given in Tishrei. Because Tarv Lekucha Shleikadin, and then the Malva is going to collect from that 6-month period Shleikadin. So what's the difference, guys? So by get, we're not worried, and by Shtarcha we are for that 6-month period. By get, we're going to say go ahead and produce your get. What day your get was given, therefore we're not worried. Shtarcha we are worried. We will return it. We won't return the shtar. Lo yachse, you won't return it. Now why not? If he's moided halva took place, you're not returning it. Why? Because you're worried about retroactive collection from the kuchas, right? Why don't you say, bring a raya exactly when the halva took place, and then what? And then you're not worried. The same thing. Bring it. In other words, the get says Nisan. Bring me a raya when the get was given. The shtar halva says Nisan. Bring me a raya when the halva took place. But we don't do that. We don't do that. So in the exact same scenario, it's a different halacha. By get, we return it, and we're not worried. And here we are. Says the Gemara, what's the difference? Hasanami lahadar, v'chiyasi l'mitzvah neimalei, I see raya emes mata shtar choiv liyadcha. So Amri, and for the Gemara, the following. Hacha gabe get, isha asi lekeach v'tava. Okay. Now, the woman comes and she's toveya. She's toveya, right? She goes ahead and she claims what? The money. The Paris. Omar, the Lekech says, Haida Dure Neula Rabbana Legita. You know why the Rabbana put the get back by her? Mishum Deloy Ta'agin. Right? That she shouldn't be an aguna. Right? That she shouldn't be a aguna. No, that's why the Chachamim went ahead and gave a get that she should not be what? She should not be an aguna. Hashta de Ka'asya Limitrayf. Now when she's coming to go ahead and rip away the Paris, right? Tezil v'tesi raya emes mata gita liyoda. In other words, the reason the get was given was not necessarily because of a concern of Paris. The concern was it wasn't a Choshe Mishpat Dikadin, it wasn't Eben Ezra Dikadin. It was they worried about what? An aguna. So therefore, why did they give the get back to her? Because of this reason. Now you want to collect Choshe Mishpat, bring a raya. But hacha gabe shtar choiv, by the shtar choiv, le'yasi lekeach v'tava. Lekeach is not going to come to be taveya from the malva. He's not going to go ahead to tell the Malva being a raya. Why? Midadrun in L.A. Rabbanon the shtar chayv, because he's going to say when the Rabbanon gave the shtar chayv back to him, pshita, my hilchas are doing L.A. Guys, by shtar chayv, there's no Ebenezer tikadin. There's only a chayshim mishpat tikadin. So why in the world did they go ahead and give it back? You know why they gave it back? Because it must be they checked into the matter, right? And therefore everything's in the up and up. So what's going to happen? He's not going to question anything, bring a raya. So he's not going to question to bring a raya. He's going to go ahead and collect shaloi kedin. So therefore, what's the halacha? Lo yachzer. In other words, fellas, in the vernacular, by Isha, there is something to be concerned about. There's nothing to be concerned about. Since there's nothing to be concerned about, give the get back. Why is there nothing to be concerned about? Because the toiveya, the one she's claiming from, is going to open his mouth. The reason they gave him back the whole get in the first place was not because the get was, dated and everything correctly, is that you should be going to guna. Oh, you want to collect payers? Bring me a raya. By the halva, what is that? There is no get creases. There's no two components. There's only a monistic component. There's only a cheshem mishpat component. Why in the world would the chachamim give it back to him if not to collect? So they're not going to ask any questions. And what's going to happen? They're going to collect shaloi kedin. So therefore, what's the halacha? Lo yachser, that you shouldn't come to that scenario. Lo yachser, we don't give it back to avoid that scenario. So therefore, what's the lashon? Shmamina, kamer rabbana b'milsa. The chachamim must have looked into the matter. Umikami didi, and before I acquired the karka, matashtara, the alva took place. Liyade, it came to his hand. Memela, therefore lo yachser, you don't give it back. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, two dinim, apparently the same exact case, right? And with two different total outcomes. If you find a get, if the husband's maida, give it back. If you find a shtar alva, you don't give it back, even though he's maida, the alva took place. What's the difference? What's the concern by get? That she's going to collect shaloi kedin, and we're not concerned. We're going to ask her bring a raya when the get was given. By shtar, we're not going to ask when the halva took place. Why? Because by get, there's another reason to say you gave it. What's that other reason? Al saguna, and therefore, okay, I'll good up, and I'll question the right to collect. By milva, the only game in town, guys, is choshen mishpat, and therefore they're not going to ask any questions. They'll say, "Oh, the chacham looked into the matter; it's on the up and up, and they'll collect shaloi kedin. Therefore, leyachser, you don't go ahead and return it. Therefore, leyachser, you don't return it." Okay. Back in the Mishnah. So, guys, look at Yud Ches. We did matzah gitei nashim. Now we're going to do shechruri avodim. Okay. Now we're going to do shechruri avodim. Boy lo yachser. It says lo yachser, because we're concerned that they never freed them in the first place. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanan, Matzah shtar shikra b'shuk, bisman sharav moider. If the Rav is moider that he freed the Eved, yachsel, you return it. Le'eved, you return the shtar shikra to the Eved. Ein a Rav moider lo yachsel, lo lezev, lo lezeh. That's the brisa. Bisman sharav moider miya yachsir. The time when the Baal is moider, you will return it. Le'eved ve'amai. Let's again, guys, through all the sugi, we're going to have the same concern. Ve'amai. Nema kosav litain lo benisin. He wrote to shtar shikra nisin. Le'nosan lo yad tishrei. Did not give it until tishrei. V'yozel avda v'kona nichsim minisin v'ad tishrei. He's going to go ahead and he's going to buy stuff from Nisan till Tishrei. Who does it belong to? The master. Guys, mashakona eved kana rabbi. Whatever an eved gets, the master gets. So anything that he acquires will be given over to the master. V'yozel rav is of ninu, and the Rav will sell it. Umafik l'shechrar. The Eved now is going to take out the shtar shechra, the kosav minisin, the katar of l'kuchash loikadin. The Eved's going to show the shtar from Nisan that the fields really belong to him, and it wasn't in the rights for the master to sell. Guys, in other words, it's the same concern. Just to reiterate, if he's maida, why don't we have the same concern that the Eved's going to come to go ahead and collect shaloi kedin? What's the scenario? Let's just fill in the bullet points, right? If it's written in Nisan, so people will think he's divorced, he's free to Nisan. He'll go ahead and sell property, but he'll go ahead and sell stuff, right? He'll buy stuff. And what is he buying? He's buying what really belongs to the master. He belongs to, right, everybody belongs to the master. no, he doesn't buy, he sells. He's going to sell stuff, I think. He's selling stuff. And now he's going to want it back. He's going to say that they're really belong to the master. And now he's going to go back and say, listen, what the master sold you really didn't belong to you. He sold it. It's a sale. What the master sold you really not belong to you. It belonged to me. It wasn't his to sell. And now we'll take it back. Really did belong to the master. So why are we concerned about that? Again, it's the same thing with the Isha. Now we have machloikis in Gittin. Is it a schus for an evet to go free or not, guys? Is it a schus for an evet to go free? What's the positive? He's mechuyev mitzvahs. Once an evet goes free, he becomes a full-fledged yid. So now he's mechuyev mitzvahs. Not limited to mitzvahs kisha. He'll be extended to a full-fledged yid. That's one side of the coin. There's another side to the coin, is in the famous lashon of Gemara, zilale shchichalei pritzalei. When you're in Eved, it's this party time year round. The women, right? Yeah, right. Yes, you could say that. Anyway, so therefore it's a chayiv. So Bishlei that says it's a schus to the Eved sheyesh medachas rabbi lecheres uchrebaya dame ede v'chasum and zleichem leishapia. So very good. Guess what? Whatever the date on the star is at that point in time, it's schus for the Eved. It's considered his. So therefore, if he does collect, it's not a problem. It's not a problem if he collects. And therefore, you can't apply a bias din. Again, the bias din of but is only guys when it's a schus. But like Reb Meir, who says it's a chayiv, why aren't we worried that he's going to go ahead and collect retroactively incorrectly? Why aren't we worried about that? That we return the star to him? I see raya amos matash shikra. We take the same thing as we tell the isha. Bring a raya, right? Bring a raya when the get was given, and then go ahead. So therefore, we don't have the concern when it was given. That's when you're free, and then we'll know what exactly who's who, what was sold, and whatnot. Okay, so we took care of what gitei nashim. We took care of shikri avadim. Going back to the Mishnah, there's some more things to take care of. Okay, now. Daitaki and matana. What's a daitaki? That's the star of a shkriv meira, a person on the deathbed, and matana over here is the matana of a bori. He's healthy, but it's the conditional matana. Guys, if it's not right matana, it's nothing to talk about. You gave it outright. Here we're speaking about I'm giving you the kinyan haguf and I'm retaining the kinyan paris. I'm giving you the kinyan haguf, it's yours, but I'm retaining until I'm gone. When I'm gone, then it's totally yours. But I have usage of it until what? Until as long as I'm in this world. Okay, so it says the Gemara, Daf Yomi and Aleph, we're in the middle of a Geshmaka Sugya, that's 7 lines to the bottom with 2 dots. Daitaki matana, ton rabban. Ezehi daitaki. So this is a contraction, guys. Dat tehei lemekim liyos. Take the word daitaki, it's made up of those 4 words. That hey, lemekim liyos. This is the way it should be. In other words, you don't need a kinyan. Guys, you don't need a kinyan. Divrei shchiv meira kiksuvim uchim esurim dami. You have the same idea by Hegdish. I mean, Russell Legavoya, Kimsi Russell Lehedjit, right? That you don't need a kinyan. He's too busy worrying about dying to make kinyanim, right? So, okay. However, what happens if he gets better? Then it goes back, right? If he gets better, it goes back. Shemeis nechasav leploini. That's what daitaki is. If he dies, his nechasim will go to so and so. Matana is kol shekoisev ba me'ayom ula'achamisa, right? And he writes to him, it's yours from today until after I die. Meaning, it's physically yours today, but I have use to the period until after I die. Alma ikasiva me'ayom ula'achamisa hu dekani bi'loy lekani. Mashma that what? If you give them, guys, what does a yom ula'achamisa mean? You get the kinyan aguf and I get the kinyan paris. Mashma, if you gave him both, you won't be kaina. That makes no sense, right? Says we're not speaking about it at matana where you give him all rights, the field itself and the paris. Of course, we're not speaking about that. We want to make a matana similar to daitaki, where it's contingent upon death, right? What's the matana of a healthy person that's similar to the matana of a shchiv meira? The loikani elalacha misa, that only after misa again, as I told you, if the shchibira doesn't die, it's not chal. So where's the matana that's similar, that it's contingent upon his death? Kol shekasav by any star that's written in it, mehayom la'acha misa. Okay, good, that's it. Now, all these cases is because he didn't say l'chayra, he didn't say to give it. He didn't say tenu. All he said koisvin, didn't say tenu. Mashma, what? The layam tenu, ha'ama tenu. If he said tenu, nicenim, then you would give it. Then you would give it to the person. Nashi, ha'ama tenu nicenim. This is not going on what the Gemara we just said. Says Rashi, amaslisam parach. It's a kasher on our Mishnah. You know, right, guys, Pashat, you learn is going back on what we just said. So Rashi is telling you, don't be derailed. This kasha is going back on our Mishnah. Right? What does the Mishnah say? The Tali Taima B'Shani Oimen Nimlach Aleim Shlei Litname. Guys, the end of the Mishnah. Look at the end of the Mishnah, please. The end of Yudches. All these cases, if you find something, you're not going to return it. Why? Because we'll say Ksuvim Hayu, they were written, V'Nimlach, and he changed his mind, Aleim Shlei Litnam, not to give them. What happens if he said Tanu? Mashmo, you give it, right? Mashmo, you would give it. Good. Now we have a problem. The inference in our Mishnah is because you didn't say Tanu. Hama Tanu Noisnin. Urimino alias it's a stira. Matsu daitakois, a poitakiyos. That's the plural of a daitaki and a poitaki. Guys, a poitaki is the first dibs, right? You collect dafka from that. Milval peh, you're going to collect from. I'm designating a shor and eved, right? Umatonois. Afa pisha shnei moedim. Even if they're both maida, you don't return it to either one. Okay, I'm going to do Rashi, guys, because the Rashi is a very good, it's a good foreshadow to what's going to transpire in the Gemara. Why don't you return it? So if we understand this Rashi, the next staff will go well. So if they both say, maybe you changed your mind, but if they both say, give the matana, give the present, then you do, right? No problem. You give the present, no problem. You give it, says, you give it. If they okay. Now, by matanos, even if they both agree, you don't give it. So we have a stira, our Mishnah that seems to say if you say give, and a brisa that says no. Lo yachzeh, says Rashi, guys, inside. Lo yachzeh. Shema kosva lezeh, maybe it was written for this individual. V'lei masalai. So I write a shtar matana for Heshi, and I don't give it to Heshi. Leizacha b'karka, and Heshi's not zeichen the karka. V'chazav v'kosav l'acher. I then write it to Benji. I write, in other words, it's the name in it is what is for him, for Heshi, and I want to give it to somebody else. Umoisala shtar v'zacha boy, and I give the shtar to Benji, and he's zeichen it. Now I want to change my mind. I want to give it back to Heshi. I want now Benji to give me the star back. In other words, if Heshi gets it back, it was dated earlier than I gave it to, so therefore you can't return it. Because maybe the reason I'm Maida, why am I Maida? Why are we both Maida? Because we wanted to get it. And I know I can't get it because I gave it over to him. So that's the whole Gemara. You're worried about what? You're worried about a trick. Initially, he wanted to give it to A. He gave it to B. And now he regrets it. He wants to give it back. So of course he's Maida that he wrote the start to A. Right? Because he wants to get it back, but he can't. Therefore, you don't lo yachsi, you don't return it. Good? And now the Gemara is going to go through this whole very, very long Gemara, a lot of words, but it all comes down to exactly what I just said. It all comes down to that. It says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Abba Mamama like Kasha. So you have a Kasha. Our Mishnah that says give it back. Brisa says don't give it back. Habibari, Habishchiv Meira. If he's a healthy person, the Shtar Matana, it was the Matana of a healthy person. Mayom Lachamisa, right? Then what? Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to, the Gemara says, you're going to, okay, so now, Mas Nisan, our Mishnah Diktani, Ha'amatnu Noisnin, our Mishnah that said, if we're scared he changed his mind, and they want to give it. So therefore, he says, give it, we give it, right? It's speaking b'shchiv meira. Debar mahadahu, because he's a person who could change his mind. Right? He could change who he wants to give it to. What are we worried about over here? Initially, you wrote it for A, the imlich, and you changed your mind, and you didn't give it to A. And you wrote it for B, and you gave it to B. And now you're having charata from giving it to B. It's amazing the Gemara, guys. I was sitting on this Gemara. I said, "I'm so surprised the Gemara is being so elaborate, right? It's very, very elaborate." But again, it's geschmack because you know what to expect. Now he changed his mind. He wants to take it away from B, and now the problem is imatan is bari. Imat is bari yavla. If he gave it to the sheni without the din of shchiv meira, less like pseida. Right? There's no loss, right? The chinafki tarti, when they both go ahead and they produce the get, basraisa zacha, the second one's going to be zaycha. The hahadebe mikamaisa. Because why? Because the star of the second one is later, and you had charata from the first. And since it's if it's shchiv meira, then we have a problem because he could have charata. Then less bopseda. So it's a shchiv of a bari. You're going to cause the second guy a loss, guys, because really it belongs to Benji. It really belongs to B, and you're going to cause B a loss. If it's a shchiv beira, there's no loss. Because why? Because he's able to have karata. There's raisa zacha, right? Less bopseda to the sheni, right? The basraisa zacha, the kahada beimi kamaisa. There's no peseda because the last one who's mekabel matana is zaycha because he had charata from the first one that he gave to the first one. So the Mishnah is speaking about a shchiv meira, and therefore you give it back because ultimately what he's the second one's going to get it. Kikatani brisa, the brisa that says you don't give it. Afa pisha shnei and moedin lo yachzeh lo lezeh lo lezeh. Is speaking bibari. It's speaking about a healthy person. He gave a healthy present. The lav bar mahadahu, he's not a person that could change his mind. The aminon dil mekosvel lahai meikara. Maybe he wrote it for A initially. V'imlich he changed his mind v'layavle and he didn't give it to A. V'had the kosvel inish achrina v'yavle and he gave it to B. V'hashta kahad be me'ahu the yavle he wants to have charata from B. The sava, the one who gave the present mahad le metzina hadrana be. I'm not able to go ahead and change my mind. The emalahu and to say Bezdin hafta that I already gave it to A, you can't do that. And therefore go return the star. In order that the first person he's going to go ahead and produce the star, we say we're not going to return it to you. Maybe you wrote it. You wrote it for A, but you never gave it to A. The yafta linish achrina, and you gave it to B. The kahadras pay, now you had charata. So you yafta linish achrina, if not that you gave it to another person. The kaboy did tasvil lahai, and you don't want it to stay by that person. Ksiv lehashta kasvil achrina v'yav nele, the yav leinish achrina less paper. Say did the kadam zacha, the first prince zacha. He mashki much shorter in the Gemara. Maskal Rab's vid. Now, what's the problem with this? It doesn't fit into daitiki. This is speaking about matana, but doesn't speak into daitiki. Maskal Rab's vid. The Brisa said, guys, it said matana. It also said daitiki. And this, so how can you tell me it's speaking about a right? It's mashma. It's both cases speaking about a shchiv meira. Yours that's in I'm mishnah that Brisa bebari and I'm mishnah b'shchiv meira. The difference shchiv meira, you're not worried about something, and here you're worried about something, right? So here's the problem. The problem is the Brisa said daitiki. So obviously it's speaking about a shchiv meira, not a bari. Alon Rav Zvid hava ha b'shchiv meira. They're both speaking about shchiv meira. Side the Mishnah and side the Brisa speaking about shchiv meira. V'loy kasha. The Mishnah that we said that what you give it if he says tanu is speaking what is he's the one who said it. The shchiv meira said it. V'had bebrei, and the Brisa is speaking with the son of the shchiv meira. Maslisin, now the Gemara fair size. Maslisin the Kamatnu Noislim Bididei the Bar Mahadahu. Since he can go back on his word, you can give it back to him. Daminon Inami Yov Lena Shachrina. If he gave it to an Inna Shachrina, let's say that there's no loss. Why? Because he can go back and change his mind. The Kamu Basra is like the Hada Beimi Kama, because he had Charata from the first guy. Because that you don't give it back. Is speaking bibari bibrei. He's speaking about the Shkivim son. Down Minon, we're worried the following. Dilma Kosev Avu Lahai. His father wrote for A. The Imlich, he changed his mind. The father V'Layov now lay, did not give it to A. Ubasar Avua, and after the father died, Kosev who the son went, and Lena Shachrina, he gave it to B. The Yovle. The Hashtaka Hada Be'Me'ahu, now the son wants to change his mind. Now the son can't change his mind. Sava mehadolem etzino hadrana, but I can't change my mind. So Emilu, I'll tell Bezdin, the Abu Yovle lahai leRishon, he gave it to Rishon, the Nasvule b'Kasvei, and they're going to go ahead and give me the star, the Nezel v'Nafik Minei, and I'll take it away from B. The Hu Zaycha, but B is really Zaycha, and therefore v'Nichla b'Hadei. And then they're going to divide it. They're going to divide among themselves. So therefore, that's the test. Again, we have guys. A Brisa Mishnah. Mishnah says you don't return anything. But there might be returned it. Speaking about Shkemera, okay, he can change his mind. But the second brisa, according to the first shot, is speaking about a bari. According to the second shot, and he can't change his mind. Second shot is speaking about what the son of Shkemera also can't change his mind, and therefore you don't give it back. Hilkach, Amin and we say to the son, Ano haik sava lo yavina leilahai. Right, this star that was found, we're not going to give what to the first guy. The Dilma Michtav Kasvi Avua Mia Lo Yovle, right? Maybe he wrote it, but he never gave it to him. The Yovta Adli in the Shachrina, and you gave it to another person. Now you're changing your mind. Eli Kushta Ka'armit, if you're telling the truth, the Yovle Avuch that the father gave it to the first guy. Zilad Hashtak Sivle Shtarachrina, write a new star. The Nami Lo Yehovle Avua, if the father did not give it, the kasafti the ish atli shachrina, and you wrote it for another person. Lest baby say that you won't be mafsid what the person. The kama ubasra kama zacha. The first one, the second one, the first one's going to be zacha. So that's what we tell him. What about a shiver? Okay, shiver is speaking here. We're speaking about a shiver of a receipt for ksuba. Now, guys, we've had often a woman could sell a ksuba for toivas hana, right? Meaning it's a person buying it for 70 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. If you get divorced, if you get an almana, your husband dies, you'll get it. If not, right? And then she is right. So now, what's the problem with a shayva? It says you don't return a shayva, right? It says you're not returning the shayva. The question is why not? Why aren't you returning the shayva? Why aren't you returning the shayva? Tanabanan matzah shayva bisman sha isha maida. That the Baal paid up and that fell from her, then you can give it back to the Baal. He has a receipt that he paid up the ksuba. Ain't isha maida, but if the woman's not maida that he paid up, lo yachsa lo ylezev lo ylezev, and now we want to know why. Bisman isha maida miha, when the woman is maida that the ksuba was paid up, yachsa lo Baal, you're going to give it back to the Baal. Read the Gemara v'leichish dilma kos v'litem b'nisin. He wrote to give her the shayva is written. Right, to give it to her in Nisan. Nasna at Tishrei. It didn't pay up until Tishrei. So you have predated receipt. The Ozla, Savanto Liksuba B'Toivasana, she goes, sells the Ksuba. Nisan via Tishrei. This man says that what the Ksuba she collected in Nisan until she really didn't collect till Tishrei. Umafik Leila Shayva the Chsiv in Nisan. She's going to produce a Shayva that was in Nisan. And now the Baal, right, who's being machzik in the karka that's meshubah the kasuba, can go ahead and collect. She said, "You never right to collect. She never right to sell it to you. When she sold it to you, it wasn't hers yet." Why are we concerned about that? So Amar Rava, Amar Aleph says Rava, Shmamina is the Shmuel. We're not. You know why we're not worried about that? Because she can do something to ensure that the Baal will get it. What could she do? The Amar Shmuel. If someone sells a sharchev to somebody, guys, if I go, guys, we had this. Remember, this is Dini Garmi. You buy a loan document. You sell a loan document. I have a loan document that Heshi owes me money. I sell it to Avrami wine rib, right? Now it's worth money. He can collect from that. Now Michael the Chayv. He's done. We say the Chayv as dini de Gami. This was a Gami dikasugya. So what happens over here? Look at Rashi. Asil Kiddush Shmuel, second line down. The Amar HaMoicher Shtar Chayv L'Chaveroi. The Chazer HaMoicher Hazeh U'Machloi Machalhu Eitzel HaLoiva. It would be Michael. So it would be Michael. Heshi wouldn't have to pay Avrami. Hilkach. In Machar V'Zuk Ksuvasa Be'iyar, the Hainu Shtar Chayv. She's Ksuba Shtar Chayv to collect. And now V'Chazum U'Machlasa LeBaal B'Tishrei. Machal B'Shapit Harf Baal. In other words, the Baal has every right to take it away. She's the Baal Chayv. She is me. She is me. I'm Michaelit. She's Michaelit. So now he can. So therefore, we're not worried about that. Is because you could do that. If the Baal would take, right? It's because you hold like Shmuel. That the possibility exists. And even the Yorish could be Michael. Abayu Amino. I feel it lesser than the Shmuel. Even if you don't hold the Shmuel's din. She producing the star. Rashi. We're not worried about that. In other words, you know when you get returned to Shaver? When she has a ksuba because she didn't sell it. There's nothing to worry about. What are you worried about? She sold the ksuba and the husband would come to go ahead and collect like a din. She didn't sell the ksuba. She has it in her hand. Here it is. In that case, you return it. But if she doesn't produce ksuba, you would worry about that. Why? Because you don't hold the Shmuel. That's not a raya. Maybe she has two ksubas. First of all, we're not chayish for shtei ksubas. And another one, and even if she sold, now this v'oid is a little different. This is v'oid, and even if she sold the toivas sana, we're not worried about what? About producing the shoiva that's stated in this sin, and you won't. Why not? Shoiva bisman tarif. You collect from this man. You know, whatever this man is, that's you're going to collect from. Guys, this is the din of schia, right? Right? You have a shoiva that's stated in Nisan. Maybe what she only sold the ksuba during that period of time, and the Baal is right to collect. From that time that was sold, the Baal can't collect anymore. Why? Because it's sold from the time that it's stated.